All right.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning to you, my friend.
I am here. I was just getting some things situated on my end, but gonna give everybody a few more minutes to jump on and then we'll get started.
All right.
Good seeing you finally. It's been a while.
Yeah, really. That's what I was thinking, man. Hey, whoo, I'm freezing.
How's everything? It's cold up there?
Well, it's cold in my house right now.
Oh, yeah.
So, are you at your house?
Oh, yeah. Today I am in the office tomorrow.
There you go. So, everything's good. Yeah. We're face to face in school still. So, they're not slowing us down yet. Now, around us, they're closed. Some of them.
Yeah, I'm hearing different stories from everybody with the upcoming months. Some are
Yeah.
going virtual, some are staying in school. So it'll be interesting to see when we come back in January. When schools come back in January, what's going to happen?
Yep.
Or even
Guarantee you.
after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I guarantee you, especially, yeah, that's what happens. You have these, you have Halloween, then you get a pop. And then, Thanksgiving, there'll be a pop.
Yep.
And then we sit and watch and wait and how many people are going home.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy. We have James and Stephanie on. Good morning.
Side by side gallery, I can't. There we go. I don't see anybody yet.
Yeah, I think we have about 10 or 12 that signed up.
Unmute. Okay. All right. 10 or 12. Okay.
Give them a little while. All right, I'll be right back, Mike.
It may just be a big meet and greet.
Oh, yeah. True story. All right, I'll be right back.
You bet. I don't see. All right. What are we at here? Let's see. No, that's not it. Review. Six people. All right.
All right, Mike, we are back. It is 11:31.
I can see
Let's
the
give them
top of
about
Jennifer's head.
a I think she shrunk a little bit.
Mm,
All right, we have a few people on the call. We're going to give them another minute or two before we get started.
how's the married girl?
I am good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Not too bad.
Good.
Just you know, going through the daily routine. It seems like.
Right? I like your
Hi, Ann and Rita.
back. It's a nice touch for the cycling webinar today.
I know. I love it. I love it.
I can't see anybody except for Jennifer and you, Erwin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we're the only panelists. So
Oh, okay.
everyone else participants. So you won't be able to see them.
Oh, okay.
But for all right. So for time purposes, we're gonna get started, Mike.
All right.
Just want to welcome everyone to the cycling training. This will be led by none other than Mr. Mike Robinson. Before we get started, just want to let everyone know what cycling. It was a sport that was a state event at one point in time due to the lack of interest and participation, I should say. We kind of took it away, but definitely wanted to get it started on the area level. It's one of the sports that we're definitely pushing to get back into the groove and get some competition around the areas. So with that said, Mike, I will turn it over to you, and it is all yours.
All right. Are you going to be doing the sheets here? Yeah, there we go.
Yes, sir.
On the basics here, it says the June through October. In Arkansas, you can cycle all year round, weather permitting. If you got the proper gear and so forth. So you can train all year long with your athletes and so forth. So it's not just a summer, fall, sport. It is a lifetime sport. You can, ride into older ages and so forth. So that's one thing that's real good about it. Not for everybody, but it is definitely a good thing. The only bad thing about cycling that I know of, it's a non-weight bearing sport, so they have to do some other type of cross training where there are, actually jumping and lifting their own bodies and so forth. So that's other than that, because you are sitting on a saddle. So, from there, that's the main thing about it. But the season is year round in Arkansas. Now, some states, if you're up north, it'd be different. And obviously down south, you definitely have all year round. So, all right.
And just
to
to remind everybody real fast, if you have any questions, you can put them into the chat or the Q&A, and we'll make sure Mike answers them.
Okay. All right. There we go. All right. Excuse me. I was looking at these. The 500 meter, if you're not familiar, that's like, it's a third of a mile. It's a little bit more than one time around a track, not that long. So this would be a good, introductory type of event. It's a time, and the 1K, they're time trials. So they just have a staggered start. And there is a certain startup. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Now, the 1K and the 5K, a little bit further, because the 5K will give you, that's like 3.1 miles. So I don't think you want to take a beginner and stick them out there and ask them to go full speed for 3 miles at the beginning. So, but those are not that difficult distances. When we were at New Jersey, they did the 500 meter on an oval track, and the 1K, I believe, was on an oval track. Now on the 5K, we were actually on a loop course and so forth. Now the unified 3K and 5K, you combine the times, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Irvin? So, you know, if you have a what do you want to call it, a person that can really go, like maybe even you know, not necessarily the partner, but you know, you combine the times, and the 3K is 1.8 miles, and the 5K again is 3.1 miles. So not extremely long events. So, you know, those not too bad right there. All right, on the uniform, of course, we're big on, you know, making sure we have no jeans and we're in athletic attire at all times. The one thing, two things when I was going over this were the helmet and some footwear. Now, my rule of thumb is on the helmet is if you're on the bike, you have a helmet on your head. Whether you are practicing, training, or competing, you have a helmet on your head and it is properly fastened and so forth. So, you know, I'm trying to look down here for chats. Because I have been just in my riding with guys that have gone down, and I've seen heads slap the asphalt, and be thankful that you have a helmet on your head. So, and Joseph crashed and up in New Jersey. So, you know, it's mandatory. Helmets on the head. Now, footwear, you know, it doesn't say really anywhere here, but definitely a closed toe shoe. You don't want your, you know, flip flops. Now, if you're just out casually riding on the beach or something, that's different. But a closed toe shoe and a fairly sturdy shoe, nothing that's just going to bend and flop. And, you know, just something firm underneath your foot so the pedals won't dig into your foot also. Other than that, everything else there looks pretty mandatory. You know, the bandanas, do-rags, and so forth, any kind of religious headgear. You know, we're not going to get into that. We're not going to say you can't do any of that stuff. So go from there. Next page there, if you would, Irvin.
And just one thing to touch on real fast that Mike
Yes.
just said, cycling is different from casually riding a bike. That's one thing that a coach had a few coaches tell us, yeah, our athletes can ride bikes, but you know, cycling is a sport that you must practice, like with the speed that you're trying to go and things like that. You must keep that in mind as well. It's not as easy as just getting on a bike and riding around the neighborhood or whatnot.
Exactly. An anecdotal story there is when we were practicing for New Jersey, getting Becky to go any other speed than casual was tough. You know what I mean? Because she just wanted to cruise along. And, you know, and Joseph, it was hard at times too. Jewelry, definitely not allowed. Because if you go down, you don't want any earrings in, you don't want any rings on your fingers, anything that can take off a finger or you know, add injury to yourself. You don't want any part of that. And then as far as a bike, you know, it says standard bike, safety equipment, definitely, if you don't know how to, you know, check out a bike and give maintenance to a bike, get somebody who does. I would venture, if you have a local bike shop, they would be more than happy to go over the bike, especially if you mention the organization. So, great work there. I think I saw something about brakes in there, and I kind of laughed. Yeah, you got to have 2 brakes in this thing. I think that's the next page. Yeah. Number 9, there have 2 working brakes, and I've seen times when I wish they had more than 2. So let me see. Somebody said something here. What type of bikes are used? Oh, okay. This is Stephanie. It's basically standard bikes. Becky rode a step through bike, which is considered a gender specific bike, and it was just a casual bicycle. Joseph rode a mountain bike that I fitted for him. There were other teams, and I've seen teams where they are full on, road bike racing bikes where they're equipped, they're lightweight, and so forth. It doesn't really matter as long as the event organizers understand that, you might even have a tricycle in there or a recumbent, or the kind of bicycles that lay down. It's just depends on the categories and whoever's hosting the event. You got anything to add to that, Irvin, as far as bikes?
No, that's perfect. Perfect definition right there.
Handlebars, yes. Solidly plugged. And what that means is the end of the bars need to be plugged. They also need to be secure so that you don't have any slippage in the bar while you're riding, especially if a guy stands up and tries to bear down on the pedals and all of a sudden the handlebars drop, you're going to have problems right there. So, all right, the rules. All right. Said, each athlete can enter 2 events, one individual and one unified, which is nice. It's, you don't want to travel however miles or hours or whatever and just do one event and then go home. It's always nice to jump in 2. On number 2 there, it says qualify to register for a 5K event. The athlete must be able to complete the race in 18 minutes. Well, if you do your math, that's a 6-minute mile or 10 miles per hour. That's not that fast. 10 miles, it seems fast, but it's a little faster than casual riding, as Irvin said a minute ago, but it's not full on racing and so forth. I mean, but it's a good pace. You're going to have to train for that. You're going to have to be in fairly decent shape to go 3 miles at a 10-mile-an-hour pace. So, in 18 minutes, that can be a long time for some of the athletes. So, and then the scoring there, it does get technical as far as the 12 colon 29 period 00. So, and you got to make sure when you're having scores, you do have the correct times, especially if you're turning in for any kind of qualifying in the higher levels and so forth.
Hey, Mike, Stephanie said that her son was fitted for a 3-wheel bike by his therapist. That's why she was asking.
Okay, yes. We had, I think we had 3-wheel bikes up there in JBU at that time. So,
oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Stephanie, there are different bikes where 3-wheel bikes, some bikes will have 2 wheels in front and 1 wheel in the rear. And like I said, a recumbent, they might be laying down in a bike like that. I remember a lot of the people rode those around. They were a lot of fun. you know, and they're very fast bicycles too, very fast. Yeah, no, that's fine, you know, and if they're, you know, categories or even, you know, especially in a time trial where you're going to go one at a time anyways, a three-wheel bike, I don't see any problem with having it in a competition. So, all right. What do I have notes here? Okay, this is starter countdown and starting using both an audible and visual countdown, which is, you know, just a modification that you would have for the demographics that we come in contact with. You know, hearing impaired, you're going to have a visual cue, obviously, for the same reason. All right, the starting position. And this can kind of cause some angst in people, but what it is somebody will stand behind the bicycle and hold the bicycle's saddle, and then the rider gets on the bicycle. Well, some riders don't. Some athletes are not comfortable with this, so they just start with both feet on the ground or whatever. It's up to the rider. I did get Joseph and both Becky to be able to be comfortable with somebody holding the bicycle for them and then getting their feet in the proper position. And that's something I got note here that says when you're in a starting position and you're somebody's holding a bike for you, you want to make sure that your power leg, whichever it is, your right leg or your left leg, is up in a 10 o'clock position as far as the rotation of the pedal on that side of the bicycle, because that way the rider can push down and get a good quick start in a time trial, so that they're just basically off and running. But like I said, I've seen kids that are just not comfortable with somebody holding a bicycle and they're wobbly. So if they don't want to do that, they do not have to do that. So that's one thing I wanted to make sure that everybody understood about that. The drafting and the pacing is, you can't do that. You're supposed to pass somebody. You know, courtesy on the bike says you announce that you're passing on the right or the left, and you go around them, and then you move on. You can't slip in behind somebody and draft, and then at the last minute pop out and pass them. It's not good practices. It's a poor sportsmanship is what it's considered. So, and there was some incidents in New Jersey where people were trying to pass and they weren't allowing them to pass, and it didn't turn out real pretty at times. So I got to see another question there.
Yeah, so we have a question from Rita. She asks, when will there be a cycling competition anytime soon? Years ago, cycling was in the program. Rita, that's one thing we're working with the area directors just to see if they're interested in offering the sport or any new sports. One thing that we ran into when we held state cycling was pretty much like the programs dwindled down. So we had Batesville, which was one of the big programs that came with their school age. And then we had like CHDC that came with all the adults. So they couldn't compete against each other, but it was like they were competing against their school and their agency alone. So it didn't make sense to have a state event, which is why we kind of went away from it. But we're looking to encourage area directors to get it started in their area, which will help by help hosting the competition, and then get it started there so we can get more involvement.
And even on that point, Urban, if you can get more areas in one region, you can have a regional thing at least, Yep. And because when Batesville was hosting, we'd move it around, or she would move it around, and you would get different teams here and there, but like you said, it would just be almost competing against yourself. It was just like a practice in a way. All right, continuing on the rules, number 10 is the rule that kind of almost made me cry again. This is the if you have a problem, if you have a mechanical problem with the bicycle, you can finish the race, and you can either pick the bike up and run with it, or you can push the bike and run with it. And that's what Joseph did. He ran with the bike and totally, I mean, there was a while there for months I couldn't tell the story without crying, and I still get a little bit of goosebumps on here. So, it's a testament to an athlete that if they do compete like that. And I asked Joseph, I said, what made you do that? He said, you're supposed to finish, coach. And I said, okay, you're right. Number 11 talks about hands on the, at least one hand on the handlebars at all times, even at the finish of the race. If you've seen cycling on TV, they'll raise both hands at the finish line, and it can turn ugly, especially if they lose control of the bike. And also no radios and communication with others. That's poor practices right there. Now, number 13, the use of headphones of any style is prohibitive during racing or training. And I definitely have this highlighted. I have never ridden with headphones in because I like to be, personally, I like to be aware of road noises, especially coming behind me, because you are blind if you're out training. As far as what is behind you, I don't use mirrors. And I just think it's a bad practice to use headphones and so forth. Now, I have a speaker that I can put in a water bottle if I want to listen to music, but I can still hear, noise, road noise, and so forth. So I would never let an athlete train with headphones on, because it's just one less stimulus that they don't have. I just think it's not a good practice to do as far as headphones. So I wouldn't at all let an athlete train like that.
A speaker in the water bottle is the first for me right there, Mike.
What's that?
A speaker in the water bottle is the first.
Yeah, they build like that. And they just slide down into the water bottle cages and go. And I've seen guys even just put them in there, cut the top off or do something. So, okay. I love it. All right. All right. Time trial consists of an individual racing against the clock. And that's true. It's just you against yourself. And then when all the competition is done, they line up the times, and, they might, put them in divisions and so forth, and go for the awards there. And then you got the question there about the two-wheel bike and so forth. They can compete together if the chief referee. I personally don't really have a problem with it. In a time trial, you wouldn't, just on an open course racing, you wouldn't want that. Just because of the one bike takes up more space than the other. But if you're just going one and then the next one, you wait, I think it's 20 seconds, and then you'll send the next one off. And, that's, I don't have any problem with that personally. Now some chief referees may say, hey, we're not going to do that. And then, so, you abide by the rules as far as I'm concerned. So there. Got any questions on the rules? We still got some more rules to go over. All right, let me see. 16. Let me see. 17. Where is 16? Disappeared there, Irvin. Start a pistol or a whistle. Pretty much kind of went over this. If the course is more than 2.5 kilometers, in length, more than one division may ride on the course at once. And this is where this is about the only time I think you're going to get any kind of a problem with modified bicycles and two-wheel bicycles at the same time. So head coach, you're not allowed, you can't get out on that track. You're not allowed to go out there and help them, but you can get out there and help them and root for them and talk to them. All right, course layouts. A road course, 2 to 5 kilometers. Most races do. It is best to have a loop. It says right here, you want the loop, and you would like the width of the road to be 7 meters, which is 21 feet, basically, which is about the size of a standard track that you would see on, around a football field. You need something at least that wide so people can pass and, eliminate as much as possible any kind of hazards that would happen on the course. An out and back course can be tough to run, especially when you have a turnaround spot. And it's mentioned right here that somewhere in here about 180 degrees is not a good, an out and back with 180 degree turn are very difficult. And they would be very difficult for two-wheel bikes, and a modified bike, a three-wheel bike doesn't turn as well. You'd have to have a very wide turn there. We have done that at times, but we've had a pretty good sized road and a spot in the road that we could do that. So your course, whoever's running the race needs to go, inspect the course prior to the race and make sure there are no the conditions as far as obstacles on the course, or you don't want to have the kids go out, the athletes go out and a big chunk of wood be laying across part of the course. Inspect the course prior to the riding and so forth. Free of potholes, as it says here. Gravel, not a lot of fun to ride through gravel, especially if you're turning, and so forth. Just keep the course clean if you can. And the last one, number 4 there, says if at all possible, have a closed course. And that's definitely true. In my personal riding, I've just on rides, pleasure rides, we have ridden where there's not a closed course, and it can be, some people in vehicles do not take kindly to bicycles. So when you're training, if you're out on an open course, make sure there's some supervision is what I would say to that for sure. All right, no more questions here. Staging areas. When we were at New Jersey, they had very nice staging areas. They had tents that we could all get up underneath in our own teams. They had a mechanic site where if you needed your bike to be worked on, you could, and so forth. It just depends on what resources the people have that are running the event. The finish line should always remain the same, and that's even in track and field, or we do call it track and field now, don't we? It's not athletics.
Technically, we do. it's still considered athletics, but we slide track and field in there.
But you don't move the finish line; you move the start line, and it's just a whole lot easier because you got timers there and you got equipment there, and you just want to make sure it stays static and constant and stuff like that. And a safe exit for the course, it seems like common sense, but I've seen times where you'll have a finish line and there may be an obstacle within 20-30 feet of that, and you're going to get some athletes going pretty fast, and it doesn't turn out to be a positive thing. And then if you can, the last 200 meters should be free of curves and turns, and 75 meters of straight road. I believe that's in there just to make sure it adds interest to a race where an athlete can, bear down and hammer right at the very end of the race. So, time trials, that's the next one there, Irvin. Like I said, the time trial, if you can get just a loop, just an oval, it's a whole lot easier to run, especially if you can get a good long loop, where you can just run one lap for your 500, and maybe if you do a 1500, just 3 laps, or a 1000, 2. It just makes for a much more pleasurable event as far as the time trial. When we had the time trial in New Jersey, we started on the outside of the track, and then they would start one, and there may be people on the inside racing, and you just kind of eased in and got in the queue and just kept on going. But you want, if you can have a loop, you're better off. Now, if you just had a point to point and you had a closed course, that wouldn't be too bad either. But the loop thing, it just makes everything tighter as far as your start and your finish and everybody and all the recorders and so forth at one time. And again, make sure that the course is free of any obstacles and debris and so forth. And then I wouldn't even go by the sewer. Unified cycling, it says you got the 3K and the 5K time trials. This includes 2 people per team, and it's 1 athlete, 1 partner. When 2 bikes are used, it must be 2-wheel bikes. And then you base the time on the total time. So, like I was earlier, you may have an athlete that's a better rider than a partner, and so you'd like them to be as close as possible so you can get the shortest time total, but it's not always going to happen. It's not going to work that way. And as far as fair sportsmanship, you don't want to have an athlete that is slow and then you have this partner that is just excuse me, but a ringer. You know what I mean? I don't think we do that in Arkansas. So I just never have, and I just don't think it would be something there. That's about all I've got, Irvin, and the rest of you there. I'm glad everybody came.
Yes, perfect. A few more minutes. If anybody has any questions, please type them into the chat or the Q&A box. 2 things I just wanted to share. For one, cycling, if you look at the rules, there's a lot more events that are offered, but we kind of narrowed them down to, good events to get started with. So there might be a time where we add more events that are listed in the rules. So that's one thing you might see. And also, I know we talked about Joseph and
Becky.
Becky a little bit. So this is their picture right there, just so you can put faces with names as well. But Mike Robinson's email is here as well. If you have any questions for him, Mike Ann said, "Love you, Mike. Thanks. This will help a lot." Stephanie said, "Will we be able to get a copy of the rules? We'll make sure we send those out. They're also on the website as well, but I can put a link in here right now since everybody's on on. I'll put a link in there for you all."
And Stephanie, if you have a phone, which I'm sure you do, there's a what do you call it? An app that has all the Special Olympics rules for all the sports on it. And so you know, even if you forgot a paper copy, hard copy, you can pull up the rules for cycling or any sport that you're interested in. And I believe that's what a Special Olympics. I've got it somewhere on here.
It could go. I can't remember I know you can go to specialolympics.org/resources, but I'm also putting a link in there so you can copy that as well. Put it into the chat box for everybody. Nope, sorry. Now I'm putting it into the chat box for everybody. Sweet. But are there any other questions for Mike? Questions, comments?
Hey, Irv, is that app just for iPhones or can Androids download it too?
I believe Androids can too, if it's the one I'm thinking about, because I have it on mine.
Okay.
I believe it's SO Sports, if it's the one I'm thinking about.
I think you're correct there.
Sweet. Yeah. SO Sports. Should be able to find it in the App Store, and it has all the rules. And I believe they're in the process of updating that one. So if you're having problems getting on it, that's why. Or if you have a few issues. But are there any other questions, comments, thoughts? Mike, greatly appreciate it. Greatly
Well,
appreciate you
hey,
taking
my
time
pleasure.
out.
My pleasure.
Love the long hair, by the way.
I haven't had a haircut since last Christmas, man.
I love it.
Mike, you did a great job. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
I've enjoyed this. This is good.
Yes, and
good to see you guys. That's for sure.
Oh yes, we'll definitely try to make our way up there sometime. But if there's any other questions, just let us know. You have Mike's email right here. Of course, you have our contact information. We will definitely look at pushing cycling as much as we can. So if you have any questions for us, just let us know. And everyone have a great holiday.
Happy
Thanksgiving. Yep. All that.
Hey, peace and love all.
Yes, yes. Have a good one.
You too. Later, guys.
Bye, guys.